Hello, everyone. This is episode 25 of the Dresden Files podcast, a member of the Broken Jars Network. And for this episode, we're doing a discussion on the last one, which was episode 17. It's not confusing, I swear. So this time, with a basic cast and a guest named Carl. Carl, how are you? Are you okay?
Mike, I'm good. About yourself today?
Pretty good. So the first thing that we're going to do, the same thing we do with every guest. What is your favorite 3 books and your favorite character?
My favorite 3 books are actually Proven Guilty, Turncoat, and Ghost Story. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Stack the deck much? Seriously, director?
and my favorite character is actually Donald Morgan.
I think that's the first.
Yeah,
For Morgan.
Morgan's tough. I think the more
Yeah.
the longer that I read the story, the more I like him. And
Yeah.
so I
That was-
definitely get behind that.
So,
That
yeah,
is
it does grow progressively more likable.
It's part of my reason that I enjoy Turncoat so much, is you start to see a little bit behind the scenes on him. You figure out why he's not just an utter bastard. There's a reason that he's a little bit of an asshole, or a major asshole.
Turncoat's a great book.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, the snark in that book was very interesting
I have a
because
problem. I
Morgan's
have
such a hard ass.
a little problem with it because in that book is where the ship of me, the one I want, is kind of ruined.
Get over it. Over
They
it.
would be so good together. I swear. They would.
No, as you can see by Turncoat, no, they wouldn't be good together.
Here's something for you, Andreas. That's how Voldemort happened, dude. Somebody was forced to love somebody else, and then they had a magical baby. All right,
Yeah,
it would be
do
a
you want to meet
terrible
Voldemort?
idea.
I didn't want that whole. I didn't
Wait,
want that
what?
whole being. I didn't want the whole being forced
That's not
thing.
even- That's not even true.
I want them to get past that and grow their love despite of it.
Yeah, that ain't working.
It's kind of branch of a poison tree. Or fruit from the poisonous tree is
I
even
know,
if-
I know, but god damn it, they wouldn't be good together.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any other news? Because I don't think so. I think like all the news that we got from last episode is what we're going to be talking about, such as the short story with Butters is out like really, really soon. Let me see if I can remember what it's called. Is Sean Speakman's Unfettered 2. It will be released October 2016. So pretty soon. And then he was talking about short story with Lucio. Maybe that'll make you happy, Andreas.
That will make me happy.
But okay. Yeah, it's back beyond before Dresden even existed, so it's not a romance.
No, that's good though, because I want to see more of the early days of the council, or earlier days, I guess, because they tease so much about Ebenezer and the Merlin and people like that having all this history, and it's like, well, that's great, but that was 200 years ago, so it's not exactly pertinent to Dresden's, his existence or anything like that.
Until it is, because, they leave things stewing a long time until it explodes. And if he can do the Maggie and Mouse story within the next month and hammer it out in 3 weeks, which is the time frame he gave to take to write it, which that's insane, but then we might be able to get that within a year or so, depending on how long it takes for the publisher to work. That would be really cool. It's the only mid-grade novel I care about.
I just really want the next book.
Doesn't matter what it is, you just need it.
I need some new Dresden, man. I need it. This has been a long time, I feel like. But how long has it been? No, between.
I think we're pushing.
About May of the last year.
Right, so we're pushing 2 years, or we're in excess of 2 years now, aren't we? So,
No, May of last year.
well,
Yeah.
It was not
no,
May of
because
last year.
last year was Aeronauts Winless, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not
Oh.
Dresden.
That's what I'm
Last-
saying.
Yeah,
So,
last
you're right.
Dresden was May of 2014.
Shit? Really?
right,
So it's over
Yeah.
2 years.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
May
the longest
27th.
work.
May
This is
27th
the
of 2014.
This is the longest
dear.
we have ever gone without Dresden, and I understand you can't expect a book every year like you used to do, but I'm really feeling it. That I really need some new Dresden.
Yeah,
I'm
I think the
patient.
books are getting longer.
Yeah, they're getting longer, and the quality is going up. I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, the newer ones like Skin Games, like were my top 3. It's so good.
Yeah,
But
Skin Game is twice the amount of words as Stormfront, and
Stormfront was really short, just to be fair. I
yeah,
got my roommate to listen to it, and he said it was like 8 hours or something.
yeah, it's not very long, but it's like that is a metric of the most recent book, twice the size of the first book, and Aeronaut's Windlass, I believe, is even bigger than Skin Game. I don't remember the actual word count for Skin Game though, but Cinder Spire's book was it's about 300,000 words, and given how long it's taking him to write Peace Talks, I think it's going to be around that size almost, just because it's like with all the complicated things that are bound to happen in Peace Talks, it's going to take a long time to write it.
I'm very happy I have a patient roommate, by the way, because like he brought up as well the quality of Stormfront and the second book, both audiobook wise and story wise. He wasn't like, I don't think they're as good as you said. They're kind of I don't know. Like, oh, just get to like book 3. Trust me, they get good.
Yeah, that's kind of. I think that's everybody's tactic. It's like the series doesn't kick off until book 3 for the most part, and that's why you book 3 haters are wrong.
I mean, I'm not a hater of book 3. Don't get me wrong, but I usually skip it. A reread.
Yeah. So I had a weird thought when you're like listening this morning about Harry was kind of based on British character or his friend that was British as well as Sherlock. Is that why Harry's id says issues in the British way? Issues.
Does he say it like that? I mean,
Yeah. When you first meet him in Full Moon, it's like he says, you have a lot of issues, and Harry is thinking to himself, he says it issues.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't know. Just wondered if that's like a little callback.
I wonder if it's because he sees his id as a bad guy.
And bad guys are British?
Well, that's actually fairly stereotypical for a lot of villains, is that they seem to be like upper crust-ish.
Yes, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
I mean, how many examples do we have that in the Dresden Files anyway? And if you want to count the fairies because, of Shakespeare, for example, then you got lots of British bad guys.
Do the fairies count as British because of Shakespeare? Well,
Right,
Ivy also
it
has
gets
a British
weird, huh?
accent.
Yeah.
That's because Ivy's classy. So
Oh,
classy
so what's the difference
people
between
and bad
classy
guys.
and bad guy?
Well, so Alex, would you like to talk about Nicodemus for a minute and then just let us know?
Does
Because
he have
I
a
think
British
he's.
accent?
I assume
wonder
he
where
does.
Nicodemus is actually from. He's like really old. I wonder what original country.
From, I think from like Greece or Rome, right?
Greece. Nicodemus is a Greek name.
Yeah. But I assume he has.
That's even his original name.
I'm pretty sure it is actually. It's like that's the one, but Arcleon I think is fake.
Because he's a stupid face. Fuck Nicodemus.
Cool villain. He's a really cool villain.
He's not
No.
stupid, and that's why
He's
you hate
terrible.
him. He's not stupid.
He's stupid.
No, he's not.
He's probably taken over by Nemesis. Anyway, what were we talking about with the
Actually, I
interview?
get the distinct feeling he's exactly not taken over by Nemesis. I think maybe that's what Nemesis wants us to think.
But let's stick to the interview, right?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, now who's getting directive?
Wait, so he did say he was almost done with the book, or?
Yeah, like it seems. I thought maybe he was done and like gonna go to the publisher, but I think is more just needs to write it until the end of summer because I got corrected by someone in the beta asylum. I'll go with what they say.
Right. I'm sorry, kids, but he was going to turn it in like 4 times by now, so it will be done when it's done. Our current estimate is done by the end of summer, which
Man,
August or September.
I just need it, okay? I just need a little something. Just something to take off the edge, okay?
That's why you're on the podcast.
Yeah, I know,
It's for your health.
Yeah. Probably true.
It's starting to get to the point where it's starting to remind me of how Neil Gaiman came out about how people were complaining about George R. R. Martin taking so long. I mean, this is definitely not that same situation.
Yeah.
Definitely the same kind of
He
law.
was saying how he's like, George R. R. is not your bitch. But
There's a certain amount of responsibility I think you have when you get people this addicted. You have to
oh yeah,
be aware of it.
oh yeah. Downside is just
like I
how
said,
it
I don't
seems like
expect.
everything that could go wrong in his life seemed to go wrong all at the same time. It was definitely a absolutely, it was a perfect storm of shit. So
For who?
It was
What
some
for?
good parts. It's still just distracting. Like I think he has to plan a wedding soon.
yeah,
That's a good thing, right? I mean, weddings are good.
Planning them isn't. I don't think so.
I thought the women did that. You just show up.
I don't know. I didn't have a wedding, so who cares? But uh, I
I just,
thought it was
I,
interesting the bits we got about Book 18. I'm going to change the topic now. Uh, we don't have a title for it, but we know now it has to do with professional wrestling and gods, possibly Greek gods that are getting Harry involved. Because Hades is the same person in Arrested Development that pulled Harry in.
I mean, I
Yes.
think we already knew about the part about the Greek guards, but gosh, but did we get any other info? Right?
Well,
It
yeah.
has to do with
So
professional wrestling.
he talks about Hades kind of being the guy who gives Dresden the referral, and then I think
It actually sounded like we were just talking about it, and he was like made that up on the spot.
it's
He's like, oh yeah,
possible. I
that's
mean,
perfect.
it is two books out, so we may have been witness to history there, but I can't remember where I learned it from, but I knew a lot when they were talking about mantles that I think from one of his talks he mentions that that's what some of the wrestlers are, is that you'll probably find Thor out behind a luchador mask now because of fans and that sort of thing. So right as soon as he mentioned it, I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. So I mean, obviously it'll be great to see it and everything like that, but you probably will see a lot of the old gods that are people are like, where's Thor? Where's so and so? Where's whoever? And it's like, yeah, Thor and Hades are duking it out. They're the Undertaker and who the fuck else is. I don't watch wrestling, but anyways, so it'll be
It's
great
been a
to
long
see
time
how he
since I
does
watched
that.
it. It's really more an American thing. I thought you guys maybe had some expertise on this area.
Yeah, but have you seen the weird power that reality TV has? And like, I don't know, people get so invested in stupid, shitty lives of other people, but like then they
yeah.
have constructed drama of caged wrestling. It's just like, yeah, that's how you get worship,
I
at least on
think
a small scale.
I don't know if it would be. It's almost the older style wrestling because the current wrestling there isn't so much. There is a drama to it. There's still the soap opera, but you go back maybe 10, 15 years, and they're like, first off, no one would admit it was fake. Everyone thought all the drama was real, and if you tried to argue about it, oh God, the amount.
It's real to me, damn it!
Yeah, exactly. And I sometimes actually deliberately would poke the bear with my older brother to say, "Oh, it's fake. The Undertaker, that's all. Oh, it's all fake," and just to mess with
Obviously,
him.
it was always fake. I mean,
But
who would ever believe?
I that is actually something when he mentioned it that I was curious about is because they make a big point that personal belief of hundreds of people, of millions of people, is what gives certain objects and certain people their power. And I was wondering if that belief could alter the personality of the individual, is simply for the fact, like, and I think, and I'd even made a note of it here, that, like, is Hercules out there, is he starting to get just a little bit more, like, is he looking at people being like, way to go, brother, or just getting really like the all-American warrior or something like that, or are one of the gods randomly
If
going to
you're
look at
saying if you're
Harry?
saying Hercules is Hulk Hogan, then there's a Hercules 16.
Yeah, or something like snap into a Slim Jim or something like that. It would.
I think it's going to be similar to how Odin and Vatarung are separate mantles. That you are still Thor, you are still Hercules, whoever, but you have your mantle as the Undertaker or Hulk Hogan or whatever wrestler you are. So that's kind of how I envision it.
Because I also was looking at, because Santa Claus is, there are so many, like, so much personal belief that he is this gentle, kind soul when he ended up being an utter badass in winter or cold days. So So that could come into play as well. But
Right.
Do you think it's going to focus on like all like general gods, or do you think it's going to focus on like the Greek gods since Hades is the one that starts it? Because as like everyone's talking about Thor, but like what about like Zeus? Is Zeus going to come back? Is Zeus doing weird, crazy shit since he's not like turning into a bull and raping a virgin or something?
Who do you think's managing the wrestlers?
He's Vince
Zeus?
McMahon. Oh my God.
Like they've got managers and agents and shit. So I'm sure you'll see a couple. Like he doesn't tend to just here's an entire pantheon in one book. We're gonna deal with that now. You usually see one or two of them and then their agent. Like proven guilty. You've got crap. I can only think of him as Darby now because they've made fun of it so much. But
Madrigal.
Madrigal and his not.
Jan.
His Jan. Yeah, I always wanted to say Jin, but it's his Jan. So you see some of that, and it's not like the whole frickin' White Court showed up or the whole Malvora family showed up or anything like that. He kind of adds them a little bit as you go. So we'll probably see a couple, I imagine. But yeah, that's all.
All right. Well, I was enjoying seeing some things on the subreddit of possible titles for it since he didn't have one. One that was suggested was Ringside, which kind of makes sense, but there's one that seems to have a more of an explanation to it is Heel Turn that was suggested by EG or Eldest Gruff, which is I'm going to call him now. And a heel turn is apparently a thing when you go from being one archetype in wrestling to another archetype. It is when you're kind of like turning to hit your own partner with a steel chair. You become the bad guy really fast. And that's kind of heel turn. It's like, that would be really cool and also be really telling if that's what he chooses as a title. Ringside is much more vague. And there's also a caged match that was suggested. What do you guys think of those?
I really enjoy the idea of heel turn because the multiple directions that title could be taken, I think, make a lot of sense. And Jim's always been a big fan of like 2 or 3 meanings behind his titles.
Yeah, it's one of the things I love about his titles. But it's like I don't know what he's doing with the story, and I don't know anything about wrestling, so therefore, I mean, heel turn sounds good, but
you guys get so meta with those titles and shit. I don't pick up on that a lot of the time.
Yeah, someone on the post said that Jim said that Harry will only have the Winter Mantle through book 18. But when I listened to it again, I did not hear that at all, and neither did Justin. So did you guys catch that at all?
I listened to it twice, and I didn't hear anything about when he might lose the Winter Mantle.
Okay, I'm not crazy. So, like, if you found that little bit, please send me the like timestamp that he said it, and I'll like freak out over that because I don't think he should lose the mantle. I like him as a Winter Knight.
I don't remember him saying you'll lose the mantle either.
I still think he'll get rid of it. Book 18 seems like that was always kind of my guess, but I don't recall him saying anything at all pretty much about the Winter Knight. Like, he talks about how Mab is one of his favorite characters because he likes to get into her head and she's so different from everybody else and that she always means 2 or 3 things, but I didn't catch anything about the Knight specifically. And I think he almost has to get rid of it, but that's kind of my thought. So he may keep it all the way through 20 just because it seems like he has an idea of how, the first half was going to be just the mortal kind of side of it. The second half was going to be the more supernatural, more dealing with the deities. And then the trilogy is going to be straight up the apocalypse. And so it's almost like 3 little series, kind of all baked into one.
Yeah, it seemed like everything is pushing him towards the Winter Court and being the Winter Knight. Like, Margaret made a deal with Leah as being his godmother.
Did we get some details, or was he just being vague about that? I remember us talking about it.
He was being very infuriatingly vague. We'll just find out whenever he wants Harry to start fighting with Leah. So the fuck
Which
was
is
it?
it's like book 2 of the trilogy or whatever. So
Yeah,
it's like,
he
yeah,
said
we
it's
got to
going to
wait till
be
the
in the trilogy.
trilogy. Right. And I
So
mean,
therefore, it had to have been something bad for Margaret to have taken that Leah wanted, and that's why he would be angry at Leah, right? What else would he be angry about?
I actually
there
worry that that's part of the reason that she's dead. Is that it would have had to have been something big for such a level of dedication from that court to the point where it got passed along to Mab. And so I wouldn't be horribly shocked if her death had something to do with it.
I'm just like, we know that well, I think it's implied as a fact at least that she dies because of a curse from Lord Wraith.
Yeah, that was the story. Like she died because of the entropy curse from Lord
Yeah.
Wraith.
Yeah.
But like,
Or is it stated as a fact, or does Harry, extrapolate that, and he might be
it
wrong?
is shown as a fact. It could
Yeah.
possibly be wrong, but I don't see how it could be because of the entropy curse nature.
I could see it being the curse being the trigger, but I wouldn't be horribly shocked if she was able to direct. I mean, she was able to direct her life force towards cursing Papa Wraith, but at the same time, I wouldn't be horribly shocked if she was able to tie something in with Leah. That she was like, I'm about to die here, let's try to make the best out of this as we can.
I mean, maybe, but she also put some of her life essence in each of her sons. So, like, how much could she have done while suffering from an entropy curse? I mean, she might not have put her essence in them at exactly her death, but
She
like,
seemed like
yes,
it seems like she had a whole lot of foresight too. So
Yeah,
she may have put all this stuff into play before the curse even hit her.
she had a lot of foresight, and Jim even specifically mentions that Lord Wraith's library has a lot to do with that. That was kind of the one thing where, the thing that's special about his library is that he's been around for about 2,000 years, and he has more insight than a lot of other people into what's coming. And maybe that's part of why Maggie actually came to Lord Wraith and actually, buddied up / frickin' married the guy, for crying out loud. Either she did it, in happenstance and then found out about it, or she did it because of the library, is kind of one of my theories. But there was actually a post in the last week or so on the subreddit that was kind of compelling about how deep the rabbit hole might go with Margaret and what she kind of saw coming and what she might have done. And that'll be kind of interesting. And, we could see a couple of different things. Like, one, Leah could just tell Harry the truth, and turns out that, his hero worship idolization of his mother is like complete bunk, and that she really was one of the bad guys. That was kind of one of the hints that they had in this post. And I don't necessarily ascribe to that because I prefer to think on the bright side of those sort of things, but it's so dark and so awesome, I can't deny the possibility.
Join me in the camp of loving to torture people. But it just always seemed that like Margaret was the chaotic good person in anything. It's the same way that the way Dresden is, which is it fitting. But like what he said was that there is a game going on, and Lord Wraith wanted to be a player, but Margaret basically distracted him and made him unable to do that this time. But now Lara has everything that he had, and now everything that she is doing is based on what she found out about what he was doing in his library. And that's why she's getting so much power. But I still need to know, like, what did she find out? I always thought that maybe she found out he was in league with the outsiders, and she didn't want the existence to come crumbling down.
We're gonna, if we look at the situation when we asked him, it seemed very much like, honestly, he'd not given a lot of thought about that library.
He seemed a little bit cagey, honestly, because I went back and listened. I
got the impression that he honestly didn't get much, that he hadn't given it much thought.
I don't know.
That's the impression I got. I could be wrong. I often am.
I mean, if that is what Lara is using as like her reason to do what she's doing now, then he's definitely given it thought.
Yeah.
But
but I think we've got a difference though. Like, he's given it thought in Lara's motivations, but not necessarily to where it's going to be a linchpin to the whole shebang. It's her motivation. It's why she's involved, and she's been a pretty strong player. Like, she's often put on Marcone's level for having influence in Chicago and that sort of thing. But I don't know. It's not. I don't think she's going to kick it off. She's mostly just like she's like foot soldiers. I don't know. She's just like part of the horde, in a sense. Maybe it had to do with the Oblivion Wars, and maybe there's a little bit more to that. But yeah, I don't see her being the linchpin, and maybe I'm just not giving her enough credit.
I just want to remind everyone that she called in a Navy cruiser in changes. She has the ability to do that with the U.S. Navy.
She may have also have slept with a few generals at some point and had a few favors owed to her.
But it's not like she's going to jeopardize any control that she has on them for them doing something
how
stupid.
How about you go and pick up some friends of mine at Chichen Itza and I'll let you have some sugar.
Yeah, I mean, it's like she has the ability, I assume, to do that not in a stupid way, and therefore she can maintain her control over that section. And it's like that is a huge amount of control. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, but I mean, to Carl's point, like she slept with a guy when he was a lieutenant, and now he's a captain, and all I need you to do is send one little helicopter to pick up my friends who got in a fight. It wasn't like she called in an artillery barrage from the Pacific Fleet or something like that. Like it. I mean, it's a non-trivial thing. Don't get me wrong. Like pulling a cruiser is a big deal, but at the same time, it's like you just happen to be in the area, and I just need one helicopter for an hour. It's a big deal because navies are how countries project force, and so having the ability to perceivably redirect that is one thing, but it might have just been half luck, half you owe me a favor.
There's that, but it's also like they needed medical treatment, and they also had a giant magic dog, and she probably doesn't want any of the paperwork, at least on Thomas, in that Navy ship, and military plus any government runs on paperwork. So she has enough power to get that taken care of.
However the favor was made, it was probably paperwork free.
Okay, the lack of paperwork is making it think that it's more extensive than that, because everything runs on paperwork. I don't know, but also I noticed a thing that if Lord Wraith is about 2,000 years old, that means he's older than Mab, who is about 1,500, I think, and Nicodemus is also 2,000 and older than Mab.
This Mab, right? I mean, Mab itself as a mantle is a lot older.
I don't think Mab is a mantle. I think the Winter Queen is a mantle. Mab is 1,500 or so.
Okay, sure.
Right, and what becomes interesting about that is that it seems to kick off a lot of things for our world, because the Red King only seemed to be around that age, and everybody else seems to be around that age, and so it's like 2,000 years ago, Greece was a power, so you've got the Greek gods were in control, and that it seems to be 2,000 years ago was the start of this age, and we're now at like the end of this age, if you want to go like Lord of the Rings and all that fun stuff. But
was
kind of interesting.
Was that roughly the turning point as well because the Greek pantheon were the ones that were originally in charge? Well, they were in charge before the She on the outer gates.
But I thought Norse gods are in between Greek and She. So around 2,000 years ago, the Greeks passed it over to the Norse, considering Greece was kind of taken up in Rome, and Rome is dealing with a lot of Jews and Christian bullshit.
True.
What made you think that the Norse took it over from the Greeks? I'm not sure.
Because of the Battle of Hastings in 800 No, 10,011 or 10,066. That one.
I guess I'm not familiar enough with it, so.
Well, like that is the last time that Mab and Titania spoke to each other, and I assumed because of all of the hints about it, is that is when they took over the battle against the Outer Gates from the Norse, and the Norse had it in between them and the Greek.
Okay.
I don't know. This is a lot of assumptions that I didn't make, but Seems.
These are a lot of assumptions I've made over my years of being a Dresden addict, so I hope they're right.
Yeah. I only remember Jim ever giving solid confirmation of the Greeks having it before the She, so I'm honestly not entirely sure. Did he ever officially say that the Norse had it at some point?
I don't remember. But there's a lot of hints about it. Like,
True. Yeah.
there were Jotuns somewhere, and now they're not here. Were they possibly having to do with the Outsiders?
True.
So, sorry to backtrack a little bit. Help me with the Norse have anything to do with the Battle of Hastings, because that's between France and England.
Is the mark of the end of the Viking Age, and
Okay.
it is because like there were Norse people coming down, and then there was non-Norse people going into England, and they fought a bunch. Norse people lost, and then that's like the end of the Viking Age.
What? We
Okay.
lost? Shit.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you notice how you guys aren't really running the place anymore? That's
And
been
we used to own so much.
Danelaw isn't a thing anymore.
right. I've been watching the Vikings. Like, I'll give you your due. Like, I'm curious how it all shakes out in the end. But but since we're not all speaking, Norwegian or any of the languages from the Nordic countries at the moment, yeah,
There's
you
actually
guys
a lot of English words that are from Norse, like black
sure.
and like. We use those all the time, and those are Norse.
I was surprised I could understand when he told everybody to get out in Norse. So that's all the guttural stuff, right? That's not from Germany, I guess. But I mean, English really is like we took every other's. So I think the joke, I can't remember who makes it, but it's like maybe it was Robin Williams actually. It was like we go through every other country's like pockets and look for loose grammar because English is like every language is given us something or we've stolen it, which is probably more accurate.
Yeah. I mean that's like I assume that the Norse were doing it because of all those hints and also because I like the Norse gods and I think they're fun. So I admit I'm
Norse
biased.
gods are fun. Like the lore is there's a lot of great stories.
Yeah. Hey Andreas, how do you feel about Harry eventually getting a hat?
No. No, I am firmly anti-hat.
Even
I
if
believe
it's an
we have
Indiana
covered this.
Jones-esque hat that was in
No.
like the Smithsonian.
No hat.
Same. No hat.
Yeah, I gotta
it's a-
say, like I assume / hope that he's kind of joking because, like, I thought it was more that so many people believe that Dresden has a hat because of the book cover, and that's the joke he was making. But yeah, if that became a thing,
If
I
it's
don't
a
know.
thing that came out of a museum, like he said, and people believe in it because it was in a museum, I could totally see him doing it, just like the Shroud. And just as a fuck you to all of the fans that have been firmly anti-hat.
Why would you? We're a very loyal bunch. We just don't like hats. Okay.
Jim's kind of shown himself to be perfectly willing to poke the bear deliberately and then sit back and watch the fire.
Oh, that's what he loves.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what the whole thing with his trolling tweet of Murphy's funeral.
Funeral. How about that one, Alex?
I'm still not fully convinced it's a troll until I read the
Same.
book. So
I'm
Yeah.
taking Priscilla's word that it was trolling, and if it's wrong, then it's her fault. Go take the
Well-
pitchforks at her.
do you really think that Butcher's never lied to her? I mean, come on. Like, he lies to everybody.
No, I think it's very possible that he was actually talking about what's his name? The
Colin, Jack,
Yes.
Murphy.
Jack, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I
rule
thought
number
it was
one.
like going to be a flashback to the dad's funeral, maybe.
Yeah,
That's
but how
all.
many flashbacks have we had, and why would we have a flashback to Colin's Murphy funeral when Harry was never there?
Because
Also
it's
We only get
Mama.
flashbacks in.
Could also have been Mama Murphy, you know?
Yeah, I was wondering if Murphy's family would come in and like family drama, like
Maybe,
him and Murphy getting married.
Did Rick get the Murphy last name? Maybe we're lucky and it's him.
It's like I was really hoping that Peace Talks would kind of open up with a family reunion with the Murphys again, and her ex-husband's there, and like now Murphy's kind of taking care of Maggie as a stepdaughter. It's like, I was hoping that was going to happen.
I mean, that's a good. Is that okay for Catholics? Someone's already been
Stepdaughters,
married and
I
has
think stepchildren are
stepdaughters
okay
and-
with Catholics.
I don't know.
Granted,
I don't know.
remarrying isn't.
I mean, honestly, that was an honest question. I don't know because we just have no Catholics here, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I think to the director's point, like if it was going to be a problem, it probably should have been a problem somewhere around the second or third marriage that Murphy had. So I mean, this is like 3 or 4, isn't it? She's at least
This would
had
be,
two.
if he marries Harry, it's her third.
What would be her version?
Third
Okay,
time's a charm. Just like
right.
it took that many times to get him on the show.
Yeah, 3 times is a magical number, so.
He did it on purpose. God damn it.
Yeah, it's a long con trolling.
We had to summon him 3 times, so
And
and
we
it
almost
worked.
had to sacrifice the baby, but thankfully Justin's baby
We promised him not to talk about the baby sacrifice. And we wouldn't bring that up. So yeah, now you're just gonna ruin that.
Okay, well,
Now it's
okay, now I'm
recorded
gonna,
forever.
something that Priscilla was saying, and also Eldescroft, is that I was talking about Madrid and terrible things like an earthquake that wouldn't happen, and he was saying things like a bombing, something with the Spanish Civil War, but both Priscilla and Eldescroft said that it's actually some earthquakes that happened in New Madrid, Mississippi, or was it Missouri? I can't remember, one of those things. The state that Ebenezer lives in is
Lives
the
in
one that
Missouri.
had terrible things. Missouri, okay, and there was a bunch of earthquakes that happened in 1811, 1812, but Jim said that he gets the Black Staff in 1884 or 85. So he didn't have the Black Staff during those? Or maybe he was just wrong because he has a couple
Continuity
situations
error?
notes.
Or maybe he was an apprentice black staff person. I don't know.
But you
We
can't
still don't.
do the evil magic without tainting yourself without the Black Staff itself.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Who knows? I mean, we'll know when it gets written, right?
Yeah.
So
I like the idea that that was something he did basically in his own backyard. That, I mean, it's also if you throw in maybe that it's what killed his wife, or he did it because people killed his wife, that he did that without the Black Staff, and that was his own evil taint that he got. Same way that Harry did, you know.
right, it's possible, but yeah, the whole in his own backyard thing. It's not like Ebenezer's just an evil asshole. Like he kills people that need to be killing, or at least that's kind of the assumption that we're being led to believe. And when you come after him and his wife, especially, apparently there is hell to pay, and you will pay it with Krakatoa, or you will pay it with whatever volcano or large landmass is nearby, whether that's an
Or,
earthquake or a super
like,
volcano.
200 people just dying in Chichen Itza because he waved his arm.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
I know that
that was just Tuesday for him, so.
I know it's very much theory, but that Jim kind of has done the I'm not telling you kind of thing about is that the Black Staff could be Mother Winter's walking stick. And when did that go missing is my question.
We don't
And
know.
right. And so the role of Black Staff, the Black Staff is what keeps the evil taint from happening, but did the White Council's hitman position exist before that staff came into his possession? So he may have been doing it as his role as the hitman, he just didn't have the Black Staff there to keep him from having that taint on him.
I wonder if it was a construct that they made, like as a council. But if they can do that, then why don't they? You know?
I think,
Right.
well, because it's a shit ton of power, and you don't just want everybody to do it. So it's kind of the same caveat. Like, I'm going to nerd out just for a second, but like Star Trek had the whole Section 31. Like, you get to the point where your goody two shoes government always has that dark office that gets to murder people because that's the only way that you can preserve it. And it's been a theme in a lot of things, and not necessarily that they're borrowed from each other or even the same source, but eventually it comes out there that regardless of how stiff the laws are or whatever, they will eventually find the dude who's the licensed assassin for the good guys. And Ebenezer seems to be that guy. What I thought had been discussed, though, about the Black Staff and its origins was that the Merlin got it from Mother Winter. So it's been since at least the inception of the Council.
Okay.
So Ebenezer is 007?
Yep.
Yeah,
He's licensed to kill.
Yeah.
He's even from the British Isles, although Scotland rather than England.
Yeah, that's not going to be a United Kingdom anymore, so.
Well, that hasn't happened yet, but Uh, it's just like it's weird to think of like how something like that could be created, and I still wonder like what is its price. Like when he used it in Chichen Itza, it seemed like it hurt him, and I think his arm was getting like blackened. But like, what is it actually doing? It's like pain is one thing, but is it? I don't think it's shortening his lifespan considering how long he's lived. But what is it actually costing him to use it?
I don't know if I mean, I don't know. It probably cost him something. It's Jim writing the books. I don't know, man. But I got a feeling that it was for sure like it's keeping him from becoming, lollygagging evil, like becoming insane with killing people and like doing dark magic. Like
Right.
it absorbs that.
Maybe it's sort of like the picture of Dorian Gray, where its power is locked in, contained until you lose it, and then all that shit comes home to roost. Maybe that's something that he would fight Leah about. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just speculating now because it doesn't fully seem to be a cost, because that's kind of what the Black Staff is. It's some kind of battery or receptacle for dark magic and all that fun stuff. So that's how he gets away with just doing whatever he wants with it.
There's always a cost until it changes when you get information from Donner Vatterung. But
He had
there's
an
always
agenda.
a cost.
He had an agenda.
Oh, he does, but
Yeah.
Harry still didn't have to do anything other than the same thing he already was doing. It's just like, there has to be something there, and we need to learn more about it. And it also, the fact that the Black Staff chooses its successor means that's a lot more emphasis on Harry becoming the Black Staff.
Potentially.
I don't know if
Yep.
I don't know if I want that to happen or if I want it to go to someone else, like maybe Lucio or something.
It depends how in the end how big of a threat whatever the apocalyptic trilogies are gonna be bad, really bad. So Harry needs enough power. Him and his friends
Maybe-
need enough power to deal with it.
He certainly does, but I like the idea of Lucio having to be the bad guy on the council. Like torture her a little bit more, please.
I
don't
was
torture
kind of
Lucio,
curious.
man.
I was kind of curious because he did say, "Oh, the Black Staff chooses a successor," and I'm like, now was he meaning that the individual with the title of Black Staff chooses a successor? Oh my goodness, I can't say the word successor. Or is it the Black Staff itself that chooses who holds it?
I got the impression that it is the office, the person who chooses.
But is that the impression he wanted you to have so he can pull the rug out from under you and watch
I mean,
your
if we're
brain
gonna
explode?
go like that with everything he says, we can't really extrapolate anything from his information.
Oh, Jim
I'm
is
gonna be
like
so-
the she. He's honest, except he lies.
Yeah, true.
He didn't tell you any falsehoods. He did lead you to believe that something was the case, though.
I mean,
So-
he's been writing Mab from how many books
Yeah.
now? I was like, I don't trust him.
It's like
Right.
the riddle of you have 35 cents. One of those coins is not a quarter. So,
I would have to understand American currency divisions better than I do for that to get that.
Oh, I also like the idea that Rudolph is not exactly fuddled with mental magics, while it's just human stupidity. That's
Of
why
course, it's
he
human
had the.
stupidity.
Well, I mean, there's obviously a little bit of that, especially if there was mental magic going on in him. But like, he did have a very fast turnaround in his disposition. Because in one book, he's threatening Harry with death if Harry hurts Murphy. In the next book, he's climbing his way out of SI by way of shitting on Murphy. And then in Changes, he's shitting on Murphy even more. So it's like that's a really big turn. And I still wonder if there's like some mental magic poking him, like maybe Lara type magic.
I always took him as the, I'm somebody's nephew, the intern type, and if you need the Tales from Tech Support link that, details some of the worst scenarios that you would read for that, like, they're always awful. It's the connected intern, which is like almost oxymoronic, where it's like you are the least important person in the company, but you're connected to the boss or the boss's wife, and so therefore everybody's got to treat you like you're some kind of power, or we've at least got to humor you. And like, I think his protection of Murphy was as much to save his own ass, and then when you divorce yourself from needing to protect Murphy because you've got connections or whatever, then you become an asshole and you just look out for yourself. But yeah,
I'm
that's
really
definitely
glad
a real life
that
thing.
there is probably not gonna be any mental magic because I just want to hate him. Like, I just want to keep doing that. I don't want him to be redeemed.
Yeah, but we still
I
have to
just want
wonder,
to
like,
not like him.
who was putting the pressure on him in changes? Why is he, like, who is behind his actions in that? Obviously, his personality is stupid human person, but someone is pressuring him in ways that don't seem to be legal. Who's doing that?
Honestly, Rudolph really reminded me of Frank Burns from MASH, who had like one or two redeeming qualities, but most of the time he was just ferret face. That you really couldn't trust him, like as far as you could throw him.
Rudolph the
And
brown-nosed reindeer.
Yes.
yeah, precisely.
But you're talking about who put pressure on him. The Ebes put pressure on him, right? The Red Court got to him in changes.
That was
So-
the hint, but
They basically bribed him.
It wasn't
That's
the hint. They were at the same place at the same time. Like, weren't they working directly together when they showed up at Rudolph's place?
They were there.
they were
That's
trying to
our-
kill him, and they sent the Ikekawaks at his house. Yes, but
Because
like,
he was the
what
cutout
did
guy.
he think was happening? He obviously wasn't thinking it was vampires. What was going on? Like more in terms
some
of
big
legal face,
shattering,
not legal.
some big corporation with lots of money, like, hey, why don't you do this and this, and you get a lot of money.
And they're South American terrorists, right? That was the FBI's official answer. So, as far as he was concerned, they were some terrorist group.
Maybe he thought he was being bribed by the drug cartel or something.
Right. I'm not quite there yet. I'm back in White Knight, but when I get there, I'll try and remember this conversation. And because I mean, they were definitely at his house, but I thought he had worked with them at least a little bit. So.
I mean, he was their pawn,
Right.
but what did he think was going on?
Yeah, I've never cared about his perspective, but I guess next time I'll try.
Yeah. It's just like I've always wondered, like, was it mental? Was it human? If it's just human, still there's questions.
Can
But,
someone I wanted to segue to something else, but if we're not done with this topic.
Oh, I was just going to say that we're going to see him in Peace Talks, and that'll all be explained, so we'll find out eventually.
I was just thinking about the Skin Games is to Ocean's 11 as Peace Talks is to Babylon 5. Because the amount of planning, delayed importance, tons of things being revealed like you wrote down, but I don't know Babylon 5, so I really don't get the what does that mean? Can you explain it to other people who might not know Babylon 5?
You need to go watch Babylon 5. Babylon 5 is important for a lot of reasons. If you want the non-sci-fi impact, Babylon 5 was one of the first TV shows that actually did story arcs in a meaningful way. And Jim himself hints at that a little bit, that things happen in season 1 that don't pay off until season 5, that sort of thing. That was one of Michael J. Straczynski. He was kind of the creator-writer of the show, if I'm getting the name right. But that was one of his uphill battles with the studios, was that they were used to things like Star Trek, where everything is episodic in the sense that one episode does not impact the next. And that was literally, like in the writer's Bible for Star Trek, that you can do whatever the hell you want as long as everything gets put back together at the end of the episode, and then they can just move on to the next episode. Babylon 5 did not do that.
There is some in Star Trek overarching season stories, but not
The
a lot.
later versions?
Yeah, exactly. Like DS9 breaks that mold, but I'm talking like Star Trek: The Next Generation specifically. A lot of Voyager, like they'll come in and they'll do important stories, but Star Trek actually rotated like writers all the time. They had just anybody pretty much write an episode, and so that was important to kind of their method of creating the show.
Man, I really like Voyager. That's a good TV show.
Yeah, whereas Babylon 5 is basically, I was pretty young when it came out, and I haven't rewatched it since, but it is very political. There is a lot of intrigue and suspense and multiple races involved and that sort of thing. And you've got this race hates that race because that race subjugated these guys' home planet, and then vice versa and that sort of thing. A lot of interesting, social, geopolitical kind of stuff in space, and so it's pretty
There's a
interesting.
little bit of a hint of Game of Thrones, not quite as bloody and backstabby, but there is like you said, that political intrigue and that incredible delicate balance between all the different sides. is like really kind of helps sum up Babylon 5.
Right. And I mean, in a lot of ways, Babylon 5 and DS9 are mirrors as well, because they've got the same kind of idea. The humans are in charge of the space station, but every other species is there, and it's kind of a neutral territory, and then at the end there's a big war.
Like Mac. Mac is neutral territory?
Maybe, but I don't see Mac as either a Sheridan or a Cisco, so maybe he used to be, but...
Well, he is accorded neutral territory.
Sure, but that wasn't ever fully... It was more like anybody's welcome, but neither Babylon 5 or... Well, I mean, maybe they had the sign on the door, but there were fucking gunfights in the halls all the time, so...
Well, there was a gunfight in... well, not gunfight, but Cold Days. They broke them.
Well, they don't give a shit about the Accords.
Yeah, but okay. So you nerd people, tell me a little bit of what he said in the Chandler and Avengers thing, because he mentioned the name Aristides, which is the name that he gave that punk in Ghost Story.
What do you mean, you nerd people? Seriously, like.
Okay, the older nerd people who know more about nerd culture than me. How's that?
What do you mean,
I have to own
people?
that. Right.
Excuse me, what's with the stereotypes here? Why are you forcing these things onto people? I don't know. I've only watched that movie once and I don't remember it. Someone else was gonna have to.
So who is Aristides?
I'm passingly familiar with the Avengers, but I didn't ever watch it or anything like that, so I didn't catch his Aristides reference. That might be something worth digging into.
He says old British Avengers with Aristides and Emma Peel. I don't know who that is either.
Is this Alex's time to shine, Alex?
Is that just the actor?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, I'm Googling it.
Never heard that name before.
Yeah, I'm trying to look as well, so...
I tried to Google it. I don't know how to spell it.
There's a warrior in my World of Warcraft guild with that name. That's about as close as I can get.
Well, it's also like an old... he was an ancient Athenian statesman, so, it's... Dude's got a name, so... But in context, I took it as like an actor name. I didn't think it was anything other than that. So
there is an actor named Aristides McGarry. He has nothing to do with Avengers.
Are you talking about like Doctor Strange? Maybe that's what he meant.
Is Doctor Strange named Aristides?
No, no one is named that.
Paul Aristides, Earth 616 Marvel database. Who the fuck is this?
I mean, now we're getting into very far away from
Paul is able to manipulate the emotional state of others. Who is this? He's a spellbinder from Salem, Massachusetts. It's on Marvel. I don't know. Someone tell me. Someone explain everything.
Well, we'll have to hit it up in the forums. So.
Okay.
How do you spell it?
Reddit.
All right, I found one brief summary of an episode of The Avengers, the British show, of someone named Sophia runs a seedy Greek hotel with her poor dad when her rich cousin Aristides, who is played by Oliver Reed, blows in on the run from his buddies.
So that's probably what he was talking about. Well, we don't get the reference because nobody watched it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I had to clarify because I did know, and I knew that Alex was probably rolling her eyes, at least internally, when he mentioned the Avengers, and I was like, hold on, let's clarify. There's a difference. So.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was a...
But there's nothing wrong with the Marvel Avengers. Let's just get that clear.
I also agree. I just didn't want her to condemn the British one just because if they shared the name. You should condemn it on its own merits.
Yeah.
Wait, Carl, is the thing that you mentioned called The Saint, not Marvel? Because looking at Oliver Reed, he's like he has placed a character on something called The Saint.
It looks like the name of the episode is Sophia.
Yeah,
But,
so that's not Avengers.
Oh, that's not Avengers. Okay,
No.
well then that was...
Yeah,
that is The Saint. Okay.
I need a nerd. Nerd help. Okay. That was...
know. However, what I didn't get into talk about is like one of my favorite early characters, Chauncey, who's coming back in the trilogy. So that's gonna be awesome.
And he
Well, that
said
was
Tilly is coming
because
back
that
too.
sounded like Chauncey might come back, maybe.
right.
He said
More
he
importantly,
can't see how we won't see him in Hell Spells because
Right.
he is working in Hell.
more importantly,
Which also
he's
implies we
going
get
to
to
hell.
see Hell.
True.
Yeah, I also noticed that he said Tilly will be coming back because we need him to tell us about things not happening in Chicago, but he didn't say when.
He said he had
He
to
stops.
establish Tilly for later. So yeah, Tilly's a returning character.
I think he's going to be peace talks. So
I hope so. He was fun.
yeah, yep.
Well, the
I mean,
government
like-
is going to have to step in at some point since they are aware of the situation. They just like to play behind the scenes rather than actually confront it directly.
And the common public will have to be aware of everything soon.
So we're gonna.
Eventually.
That's like
In peace
some of my
talks.
other it's just like there's like two different types of urban fantasy. There's one where everybody's living with the supernatural, and there's the ones where they don't know about it. So we're moving from the people don't know about it into the people have to live with the territory. That's gonna be cool.
And explosive.
Lots of
Yeah.
explosions,
Yeah.
and they're all Dresden's fault.
The building was on fire, and it was not Dresden's fault.
Actually, at this point, it'll be like Chicago is on fire, and it's not my fault.
I swear, I wasn't even there. I was somewhere else. It wasn't me.
Yeah, on the other side of more people who are coming back, he said that Mavro coming back in book 19, which I'm so pissed off it's going to be so long, but he said that Mavra is also going to be an ally of Dresden in Mirror Mirror. But
Right.
which Dresden?
She's so in Mirror Mirror, he made a different choice. My theory is that his choice was that he signed up. So he's the vampire sorcerer wizard dude in Mirror Mirror, which means that Mavra taught him or helped become his mentor once he turned, which was kind of the offer anyway.
So Mavra is helping Alterna Harry
Yes,
and not our Harry.
I believe so.
That would
Yeah.
make
It would be very interesting, though, if she realizes that there's two Harrys running around and chooses our Harry to help.
Which is a possibility. Yeah.
I don't know which one will be better because I'm not the author, but I'm excited to see what the hell is going to go with that. I still want her back faster. I hope that she was in peace talk so much.
Just the thought about how long until we're probably going to get to read Mirror Mirror makes me slightly depressed.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I think part of the problem is the Black Court is not as much of a power anymore, and so they probably really won't have a seat at the table. And same thing as with the Red Court too, is that they don't have the juice anymore to qualify to be at the big kids table.
There shouldn't be anybody left because
It's implied that if any Red Courts was currently in the Never Never, for example, a spell couldn't get to them.
Yeah.
Sure. So theoretically, the Ebes are alive if the Goblin King didn't kill them, but you know.
I think Jim was asked this, and he said in some Q&A where he was like, they are extinct in the same way the Black Court is extinct. There might still be some around who are out of reach for the spell somehow in the Never Never, for example. But in large, they are gone. By and large,
Yeah.
And I also like the hint that maybe there was a Jade Court agent all along. Who do you think that might be? Anyone? I don't
with
know
someone
what
we've
the
met.
names are.
I
someone
think
we've
it was
already
Bob. Bob is really secretly a bad guy the whole.
I thought he would be a white court representative.
I was thinking more like a bureaucrat. You know, someone who sees all the paper, and then maybe he's one of the informants for Marcone, so he knows what Marcone knows as well. And it's I don't know.
That guy that works for Marcone in Ghost Story. That goes to the meetings.
Yeah. Childs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I thought there was somebody specific. There was some Asian guy who popped up after, from Ghost Story to Cold Days, somewhere in there. But, if it's going to be anybody, unless we're just saying that they shapeshift and, they've turned somebody else or something like that, in which case it could be anybody.
Yeah, and when you were talking about the movies, he's like, okay, the White Court based on Anne Rice, touchy-feely, annoying, sappy vampires, and then the Red Court is based on From Dusk Till Dawn, and the Black
Right.
Court is based on Dracula, obviously.
Right.
I'm really annoyed that the White Court predates Twilight because it fits so well.
No, it's
I'm
It's
really
Twilight from
thankful
20
it
years
does.
ago.
yeah. He wrote he wrote this shit before Stephanie Meyer even got a pencil, probably, and had an idea. And thank God for that, because it was funny, but no. But you were going to talk about the Jade Court, so I saw your notes, and that you're thinking that it might be influenced by one of the White Wolf houses, like the Vampire Classes.
Yeah. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, amazing game, but they had Kuei Jin that weren't Canaanite things, and I was like, that's the only thing I can think of that would be,
Yeah.
one of those others, especially since Asian.
Right. I've done some research, and I mean, there's a thing called Jiangxi. Forgive the white man pronunciation on that, but I mean, the problem I have with it. So, like, that's a legitimate Chinese folklore that he could pull from, but they sound very Black Court. But when I was like, the more I read, the more it sounds exactly like what's his nuts from Big Trouble in Little China. So, so it'd be hilarious to have these little, half ghost, immortal, zombie, vampire things running around shooting magic at everybody. But
Man, that's a trip.
That sounds right up Jim's alley too. As to
Right.
he's like
Big
trying to think
Trouble
up
in China?
vampires, and he's got that running in the background, and he'd be like, "Oh, that sounds like a good line of vampires."
I mean, to be fair, the Jade Court was invented by the RPG team, and he had to think of something for them if he needs them. Like, he didn't
What?
make the
Seriously?
Jade Court. He didn't make the Jade Court. They were like, we need some vampire. We'd like some more vampire faction. Can we do this? I'm pretty sure that's how the Jade Court came to be.
I
No,
didn't know that.
Actually, no, I don't think so. I think he
Okay.
during one of his like Q&A sessions, he did mention the Jade Court long before the RPG came into play. He did say, I don't know if he named them specifically, but he did say that there was another court in Asia. Combine that with the fact that when Shiro showed up for the first time, he mentions the Jade Court.
true.
So-
Yeah, and that's way before the RPG.
Okay, yeah, I was just so sure that it was something that they kind of made up in the RPG,
Yeah.
and then he made it.
The RPG may have fleshed out the Jade Court.
I think
but-
that's where you can get the most information about Jade Court. That is the RPG.
Yeah.
But maybe,
And that could be. I think he might have also said some things about, unless I'm misremembering the statement actually being about Black Court, like the way they feed is apparently horrifying, and he refuses to give any details about it. But it's terrible.
they eat souls. Oh my god, could you imagine that?
I thought he said something about like having to dismember corpses in a certain way, as well as soul things. Like, I don't remember the actual quote, but it's in one of his AMAs on Reddit. And I have to go look that up, because we're gonna do a giant vampire episode soon.
Yes, it's gonna be awesome.
Right. I think that's most of our nerd out. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to get to?
Yeah, we could talk about more, but we're already getting past the hour of the usual time we do. So nothing I feel pressing that I just need to say.
Okay, then I guess it's time to plug all of our stuff. Alex, help me, because I can forget some things. Like, what's my
42
thing?
Entertainment is for nerds. High
Tech
fantasy.
nerds. They do a lot of tech.
High
High
fantasy.
fantasy. It's about writing. Come on, Alex, help me.
Shylock's Gaming, really? You're gonna
Shylock's Game.
forget
I was going to do that last, so as not to seem.
Okay.
Shylock's Game podcast is every Tuesday now. We talk about video games. It's fun. Great Scott podcast about The Office. Dangerous to Go Alone, which is more about nerd culture. I think that's it.
The entire Broken Jars network at brokenjars.xyz, they're just a bunch of nerds.
Yep.
But also, you can contact the Dresden Files podcast at dresdenfilespodcast@gmail.com, or my post to Reddit, whatever. And if you want to get on the show, you absolutely can. I just need to warn you guys that we have a wait list right now, and we have had one for several months, so I figure I should tell people. So.
I actually have it's not podcast related, but I have a stream.
Okay, do you have a name for it?
No, it's not part of Broken Jars. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, wow. Okay, never mind then.
I'm just kidding, Andres. Go ahead.
Lord Betty on Twitch.
Lord Batty.
Yeah.
Also, subscribe if you listen on iTunes or you watch on YouTube. Either one, subscribe on both because the more subscribers we have, the easier it is for people to find us, and hopefully we can get Jim Butcher back on the show.
He already said it. I'm
You
taking
already
him
said
at his
he would
word.
come. I'm
That's
taking it
true.
out for as well.
But I
He can
think
always
that's
regret it.
everything, and I don't think I forgot anything this time. So let's all say bye, everyone.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.